What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another tropical outlook and discussion here by Agents of the Forecast. In this video, we're talking about whether August could potentially become a very, very active month, as we had a very dead and very inactive July. So we're going to be talking about whether August can be the complete opposite. But before we get in the video, we are at 5,998 subscribers, which means we are only 2 subscribers away from 6,000. So please, if you are new, please smash that subscribe button as well. If you know any friends or family that are not already subscribed, please share them the channel as we're trying to get to 6,000, and after that my goal will be 10,000. But without further ado, let's get in the video. So first thing we're going to be taking a look at right now is the actual current SSTs, or actually this is current SSTs for actually this is, let's get the current right now. So there we go. Now we are at current SSTs. So here's now a look at July 20th, which is obviously today. The thing's actually a few hours behind, which is why it has 27 hours, which is just right now. So it's still a bit behind. But this is basically our current SSTs that we're seeing right now in the North Atlantic. And the reason why I'm going over SSTs first is because the SSTs, as you know, are going to continue to get warmer up till really beginning of September. So we're going to continue to see these waters across the Gulf Stream, Western Caribbean, and as well even MDR start to warm up as we continue into now the last days, really last 11 days of July, and it'll be a lot warmer. Trust me, these waters will be a lot warmer by the time we actually get to August 1st. And not only that, this will help specifically in the Western Atlantic. These really warmer waters start to accumulate OHC, and then by the time we actually get to August and we see those conditions be favorable, we can see a very similar scenario of last year where the Western Caribbean had months of OHC accumulating because of the inactivity in the area. And once storms started going there in the late season, October, November, storms started rapidly intensifying. I'm not saying we're going to be seeing like that with Iota and even Delta or Eta. I'm just saying we can definitely see some storms become quite strong, all because of how much OHC there already is right now and how it'll possibly continue to become more widespread and even more significant by the time we get towards August. So right now we're seeing some really darn warm waters across portions of the Gulf of Mexico, really around mainly 29 to possibly as warm as 31 degrees Celsius across specifically the central Gulf of Mexico. But as we'll even start to see some waters near 30, creeping near 30 for a portion of the central and northern Caribbean, the Bahamas, and the Florida Keys as well. Waters overall in the Gulf Stream are getting very, very warm now, getting up to over 28.5 to near 29 degrees Celsius near the Outer Banks there as well. Seeing some pretty warm waters warming up there near the Bermuda region as well. Portions of the eastern MDR as well are starting to get their act together just north of South America. But let's now go all the way up to July 27th, which is just 7 days away, a week out, and look how significant the waters are. I mean, look how much significantly different they are. I mean, look at the eastern Caribbean and portions of the Northwest Caribbean. We are seeing, the eastern Gulf of Mexico is just going absolutely crazy, nearly 31.5 degrees Celsius water. So we're getting extremely warm waters within that region. So just imagine how warm and how high the ocean heat content goes and exactly how deep it goes. I mean, we're going to be seeing 80 degree Fahrenheit waters for a long way down with these type of waters as well. Overall, look at the MDR dramatically different in actual SST differences. We're seeing nearly maybe 30 degrees Celsius, just maybe under 30 in the central MDR right now. We're basically seeing only really 27, 28. So I think it's going to be seeing a dramatic increase in SSTs overall. So once we start seeing the MJO bringing in big moisture bubbles in these waters, we're going to be seeing some potential significant chances, or at least large potential within systems, unlike what we saw with June. Obviously, we still saw obviously Elsa in the beginning of July, but again, really like 94L didn't have much potential. Not really just because of the water, but overall how the dryer was quite in the way, but as well Elsa could have become something a lot earlier if the waters weren't as cold as they were at that time period. But I mean, even look at the Northwest and even just overall West Atlantic. I mean, near Bermuda, we're seeing just really 28.5 to 29 degrees Celsius to the south of that. Gulf Stream continuing to get warmer. Obviously, the waters near the northern Gulf Stream staying pretty similar, but the areas in the southern Gulf Stream near Bahamas and Florida Keys start to dramatically warm up. So it's going to be a very, very big factor possibly as we go into August. Also, something I want to mention, this obviously doesn't really have to do anything with really August. It's maybe going to do more towards the late season, the actual peak between September and October. But we are now seeing our first negative values in the 3.4 Nino region index since the late May. Obviously, we were on track to get very close to El Nino stats, which obviously I did not think we're going to get to at all. And actually, it looks like the ENSO forecast is verifying. But we are now seeing our first latest values since May. We're now at negative 0.05. So we're dramatically decreasing. And look at really just around 2 days ago, we were at positive 0.1. The thing's dramatically decreasing in values as the waters are as well becoming a lot cooler and widespread into portions of the central and eastern Pacific. Or when I mean eastern Pacific, I mean like near the Columbia coast and all that kind of. I guess it's the East Pacific basically, but it's not like the East Pacific we're talking about, like near near Mexico and that region where we just saw Felicia. I'm not talking about that portion of the Eastern Pacific, just want to let you guys know with that, but you know what I mean by dramatically decreasing. And Enzo does have this on track to become possibly a chance to form into a La Nina by possibly late fall, if not early winter, and it does look like that will be on track. And this really won't necessarily affect August. It actually may affect August with maybe starting to see La Nina type characteristics, possibly. Obviously, we don't have to have an actual La Nina status to see characteristics of one. However, as we get closer towards one, we can start seeing a lesser shear overall. Because as well, ends also neutrals. When you see negative neutrals, they are very similar in a way to La Nina at some points, and that can vary allow by maybe late August. We can start seeing, depending where this is in late August, possibly La Nina type characteristics. So we're definitely going to keep a close eye on this. So let's now go and get a look here at the actual ocean heat content forecast map. And this is as well new as it did update earlier today. And look at the ocean heat content. I mean, I don't remember the last time we looked at this. I think the last time we looked at it was maybe a week ago. And boy, does it look completely different for the East Central Gulf of Mexico. We're now seeing waters up to 80 degrees Fahrenheit go all the way down to nearly 150 meters down in the actual Atlantic. So that's exactly what this means. This graph right here is basically showing you how deep meter wise 80 degrees Fahrenheit water is going down. So we're seeing some very deep ocean heat content and basically 150 meters. I believe is basically around 500 feet. So that we're seeing 80 degree Fahrenheit waters go down all the way up to 500 feet in the northeast Gulf of Mexico, which is absolutely crazy. So as ocean heat content continues to deepen as well overall become more widespread, there's going to be a lot of potential for storms that move over these areas once we get into August, September, and October. As well, ocean heat content isn't even that warm yet in the Western Caribbean, and typically at this time of the year, our warmest ocean heat content is within the Cuba and as well overall between the Yucatan region and as well Cuba, right here within this little alley right here. So that's typically where we see those warmest ocean heat content waters at this time of the year. But right now, it's basically in the Gulf of Mexico. And not only that, we just saw kind of Elsa within this region. But no matter what, this ocean heat content is going really crazy. And that is because right now the Gulf of Mexico have the warmest waters in the within the actual region, as towards in the Western Caribbean, they're kind of sitting towards 30, maybe 29.5, while we're seeing some areas of over 31 or nearly 31, basically, within the North Central and overall West Central Gulf of Mexico. But ocean heat content will be completely different by the time we get towards August. Again, look how warm the waters were by July 27th. So just imagine by maybe the first days of August how warm and how deep this ocean heat content goes, and that can be a pretty big factor towards August and whether we can see some significant storms in the Western Atlantic. So since we're still discussing right now the topic of SST, let's now go ahead and look at the CANSIPS monthly SST anomaly. So here's a look at July. So obviously, since we're still in July, they do have July as of basically from July 1st to July 31st. And they do have pretty warm water, specifically in the southern, near the equatorial Atlantic right there. Obviously, they can't really have storms form right near the actual equator. but anything really near the South Atlantic would kind of form down here. But right now, according to the Kansas, July was pretty warm across the southern MDR, which actually was quite true, and as well the northeastern portion of the Gulf Stream as well as pretty darn warm as we were into July. But let's now get a look here at what the forecast SST is for August. So let's now go look at August, and you can tell that Kansas obviously is not the most reliable, and it's definitely a pretty. It just kind of just averages out like a smooth radar you see when you use smooth radar. It's basically like that, but smooth SST. So it's not the greatest, not the most accurate, but we're just gonna get a better idea. So by August, they do expect these waters that were pretty warm near the equatorial Atlantic to start spreading towards the north, and so it's really warm waters that are near the actual area of the northeast a Gulf Stream start as well moving toward the south. So overall, the Atlantic will become a lot warmer. So you can kind of see areas like this region and the central MDR will be warmer than they were in July, as well as seeing some warmer waters right here near the Gulf Stream, as well just to the east or west of Bermuda, as well will be warmer, and as well even portions of the very important Western Atlantic will be warmer than average, and as well warmer than as well last or this month, according to the Kansas, and as well I believe the European monthly as well. No, I think no European seasonal shows it as well, and I do believe the CMC as well shows that. But I want to make the video as well quite short. I don't want to show every single model, but overall you kind of get a better idea. It's going to be quite warmer SST wise as we go to August, and that does make sense. It's not super duper crazy. It's basically what happens every year. We see warm waters as we go, and then once we get towards mid-September, they start cooling off in specific areas, specifically the MDR. That's why you see MDR kind of firing off in the early season and dying off rapidly in the late season, because MDR sees those warmer waters quite soon, and they kind of die off quite soon as well. But overall, it makes sense. So the warmer waters across these regions is not crazy, and it's not going to be the main reason or even really a big reason at all to why we're going to be seeing potentially an active August. Another big factor to why July is not only dead but going to continue to be quite dead. The only hope really for any July systems, additional systems, will be the last days of July, kind of more like a Hanna time frame. Now, I think Hanna did form July 23rd, and then made landfall in Texas July 25th. So I'm talking basically a time frame around that, the last days of July is basically where I'm talking about an additional chance for storms. But another big factor overall, not only was it how the MJO is right now in the right now it's actually in the Western Pacific, but it was in the Indian Ocean when I made my first July forecast, like July 5th or 6th. But another big factor is going to be the SAL. So that's basically Saharan air level, or Saharan air layer, which is basically talking about the amount of dust that does come off the Saharan desert, and that was a pretty big factor to why July was very dead. I mean, there was frequent very dry air as well. That's still going to be quite a big factor. Not only was the Bermuda high extremely strong, there were actually two large highs within the region in the central Atlantic, bringing very dry and sunny conditions across the Atlantic, and as well it's helping create very high pressure across the overall Atlantic. But as well, we're seeing some very frequent dry air related not only to those not only related to those highs, but as well to the actual Saharan air level. Like for example, look at today, extremely thick SAL, considering how far west it is. Typically, this is not typically too thick when you're talking about Africa and actually in the eastern MDR. But considering this is in the eastern MDR and western MDR and in the portions of the Eastern Caribbean, that is quite thick. We're talking some really high colors. We're talking about pinks and as well getting towards the yellows. But if you really want to talk about a really thick SL, to be right here located near Morocco off portions of northwest Africa. The thing is, we don't really care, or it doesn't really matter if SAL is that far north. Typically, it matters if any SAL is kind of within this region, and there's not going to be any SAL within this region. However, look as this does kind of curve further to the south once you go further west. So that's going to be the only factor to why things are the way it is. Also, SAL isn't the only dryer, obviously, because of those obviously because of those highs. There's very widespread dryer, not just because of SAL, because of those highs. So there's going to be really very widespread dryer across this whole region. So there's really going to be no chances of really any monsoon waves to develop or even have any potential in the Atlantic. But as we go into really late last day of July, you can see that SEL is a lot less thick. Look at July 28th, which is actually my birthday. Even the waves coming off Northwest Africa are very they're a lot less dense as well. SEL kind of dramatically is decreasing across the western Atlantic, and as we go July 30th as well, becomes still very unfrequent. And this is kind of reminding me of like late or mid June when we saw 94L, how the SAL was very it really wasn't thick or dense at all. So this is going to be something as we continue to August. SAL will dramatically decrease as well. Mid July is the peak of SAL, so this makes sense. We're seeing what we are seeing right now, but it's also part of taking up the MJO being in the Western Pacific. So now let's actually get into the shear part, since we just looked at the SSTs and as well dry air as well. Shear, you can see it kind of really it's expected to really spike as we get into late July. It's going to be for the Caribbean, not the overall Atlantic. So yeah, the Caribbean is going to start seeing a pretty large spike in shear. We have kind of seen that as already the first 20 days of July. Shear has basically dramatically increased since Elsa has moved in the area in the beginning of July, but now it's basically expected to really increase. Look at the beginning of July, it did really drop a lot. And that's exactly how Elsa was able to get to Category 1 in the Caribbean. But now, as we go deeper into July, it's expected to kind of peak. Sorry, this is actually mid-July right here. It actually peaked in mid-July. And now it's going to continue to be expected to drop a little bit as we get into later July. So it's basically kind of been on and off since after really Elsa. And it's expected to most likely start to drop once again as we go to August, and kind of see this black line is kind of representing the future right here, the future forecast, and it's expected to continue to drop specifically for late August and portions of September. So overall shear should start to dramatically decrease for portions of the Caribbean as we go into August as well. This is going to continue to be a trend towards the tropical Atlantic and the MDR region as well. Kind of spiked a little bit into mid-July, which makes sense, and now ever since it's starting to drop a little bit. And like I did say, once we get kind of past the October region, this shear that dramatically increases for the MDR. So another big reason to why July was dead was because of the MJO. So basically, the MJO, like we talked about a few days ago, like I think it was like 5 days ago or 6 days ago was the last time I talked about the MJO. I think it was maybe like 10 days ago. I really don't know when the last time I talked about the tropics, but really basically the MJ was bringing really a lot of that moisture and the eastern motion of those tropical rainfall and cloud cover in the Indian Ocean in the first portion of the second week of July, and now it's in the portions of the western Pacific and portions overall near the Indonesia area as well, near Papua New Guinea. That region is where we're seeing about the current MJO. But as we now start to move eastward, you can kind of see now this eastward motion of the tropical waves and cloud cover. And overall, it's going to start moving eastward into portions of maybe as far as maybe the 8th of August into portions of the Western Caribbean as well, maybe even Gulf of Mexico as well. Even maybe by early 3rd of August, we may start seeing that rising motion of air. So you see, this is the sinking motion we're seeing right now. So there's really no chance of seeing any development here within the next few 2 weeks or so. There's too much sinking motion of air in the MDR and as well overall Atlantic, but we're going to start seeing some rising motion as early as the 1st days of August, and it's looking very good all the way up to the late 26th of August time period. So it looks like this MJO will continue to bring in very widespread rising motion of air right for the peak of the season, which I believe is the 7th of September, I believe so. So it's going to get really, looks like really good conditions as we go into much of August, as well as later eventually into September. So let's now get a look here at the GFS for the next few days, basically mainly the next 10 days as we get toward the end of July. So you just see overall, we see that strong Bermuda high there at 1,027 millibars, sorry. You just overall see that very dry air associated with it, as we kind of see that very extreme dry air right here because of the actual essay we're seeing, and wondering why we're seeing just dry air specifically concentrated within that area, because you see how strong those isobars are within that eastern trade wind. Is exactly why we're seeing so much SAL concentrated within this actual area. We are also seeing constant moisture start to become more frequent into Africa as the MJO pursues to move eastward. But again, if anything, the areas that will start seeing more moisture sooner in the Atlantic will be the Western Atlantic, specifically including the Gulf of Mexico. But right now, we're still seeing some moisture associated in Africa. However, there's not going to be any potential, as dry air will completely just suffocate it. Within that overall SAL and high pressure together will bring extreme dry air across much of the basin. If you're wondering why the Western Atlantic doesn't have a shot, there's going to be some moisture within this region, is because the shear is going to be extremely high. If you're wondering why there's not any shots here, let's now go actually take a look here at the actual shear. If you're wondering why there's no potential in the MDR as there's very little shear, is because how much dry air there is. So there's very, very, very little shear in the MDR, but extreme dry air. And there's very, very little dry air in the Western Caribbean, but there's extreme dry air. But there's extreme shear. That's going to be the big problem about the whole Atlantic, is that each portion has a pretty large limiting factor, which is why there's not going to be anything really in the Atlantic at all. Not one region until August. Not only that, we're also starting to see very widespread high pressure across the Atlantic, which just does not really favor whatsoever much potential within the actual low pressures to get towards the pressure they need to get towards any status. However, we did see Invest 99L at 1,018 millibars. I mean, we saw an Invest at 1,018 millibars. It's absolutely crazy. You see the reds, we are seeing some higher pressure across, specifically concentrated across portions of the Caribbean and as well overall Atlantic and the Western Atlantic. But as we now continue now to August 3rd, now August 10th, as well even now August 17th, we're gonna start seeing higher pressure will become a lot less, I guess, widespread and as well overall strong. There still will be areas of slightly above average pressure, but it's kind of how it is. But you can kind of see now by August 17th, we're seeing some lower pressure across Africa, and that'll be continuing more widespread as we now get into late August. So overall conditions will start to get more favorable, I guess, for systems as well by July. You see very, very dry, but as we continue now into August, there's going to be still some drier, quite common. However, it will be a lot less widespread, and overall, there's just going to be a lot more potential within monsoon waves. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys later.